Welcome to P5JS. This is Sensei Charles, and I'll be walking you through the initial setup of this JavaScript coding course. P5JS is a JavaScript library, much like what we've been using in the dojo. So many things will carry over and be very similar, like your if statements and all your basic logic. But some things are going to be different. So the way you make a circle and things like that are just going to be slightly different. So the first step you want to take is to go over to p5js.org. Once you get there, the first thing we want to do is just go on over to the editor so we can get right into the code. It's this big button that says Start Creating with the P5 Editor, so let's click on that. We have our script on the left and our game on the right. So right now our game isn't playing, so nothing is going to be showing. If we want to play the game, we can just press this play button up here. Right, and in this default script, it's just going to give us a gray rectangle here. And before we go into the coding, let's just take a look around all these options we have here. So one of these options is the play button, which we already ran over. The one next to it is a stop button. You can just use that to stop the game. The auto refresh one is actually pretty neat. So every time you make a change in the code of the script, it'll automatically refresh your game. So if we were to enable that, and then let's say just change one of these numbers to like, I don't know, 205. It should, it just blinks and we have a slightly different shade of gray. And then to the right, you can see the name of our project. So this is going to be randomly generated every time you make a project. But if you click on it, you can rename it. So for this one, I'm just going to call it Setup. And then when you're done naming it, you can press Enter and it'll save. Right. Now if we go all the way to the right, there's a little gear for preferences. You can change the text size, whether or not you want to autosave, and the theme, so I can make it dark, I can make it light, high contrast even. But I'll keep it light for now. And there's also some other accessibility settings, so that would be like if you want your line number to show up. So your line numbers are right here, if you can't see them. I think they're pretty helpful, so I'm going to keep them on. And these other ones we don't really need. I can just close that. Then if we go to the top of the screen, we have our file, and we can make a new one, save it, open a previous one, or look at an example. And then edit is for tidying your code. So if you tidy your code, you're just making it look all neat. And then you also have your find. So that's just looking through like, oh, can I find this little bit in the code? You have sketch, which is just run stop, and help. And so if you try to save it right now, you'll run into a small issue where I won't. And that's because you don't have an account yet. So up the top right, you'll see two buttons for sign in or log in and sign up. You have to make an account in order to save your game. So if you want to save your progress as we go along, you're going to have to make an account in order to save. So I guess that means the next thing to go over is our script. So we can see two main things. We have a function setup and a function draw. So some of you more advanced ninjas might already know what this does. But a function is basically just a grouping of items that can be called to run at any time. By default in P5JS, it'll run your setup the second you press the play button, and it'll only run once, and your draw will be run every single time it updates. So if we were looking for an equivalent to our previous JavaScript course, that would be initialize as scene starts for the setup, and update every frame for the draw. And then we can go over these two functions here. So if you recall from the previous course, we would often make different calls here. So sometimes it would be saying like this move y to move the y. And we have a few extra ones here. So one of these is create canvas. So create canvas, what it does is it takes an x and y position. So your x, remember, is your left and right, and your y is your up and down. And it uses that in order to make your game. So this number dictates the size of your screen. So if I were to increase this number, let's say to 800, you'll see that our game window increases. And if I were to increase our y value to something like 600 or 6,600, you can see it also gets taller. And then for background, so that just changes the color of our background. So right now it's set to 205. So the background works in two different ways. You can have a regular color, or you can have a gray color. If you want to have a gray color, all you need is one value. So since we only have one value, it's just going to be a gray. If we put in 0 here, we would get a black, and if we put in 255, we get a white. 255 is an important number. It's going to be our max number for all of these color values, no matter where we go. But that being said, if we want to use a regular color from our beautiful rainbow, then we're going to need to specify a little bit more. One way to do it is specify 3 colors: our red color, our green color, and our blue color. So if we specify that all into our background with separated by commas, like so, comma 50, right, we have a red of 255, a green of 155, and a blue of 50. So since we have the most red and second most green, we end up with an orange color, and we have a little bit of blue, which you might be able to see through here, to make our background color of orange. Of course, if we were to change this to 0, we no longer have any red, and it becomes mostly a green. Right? And if we were to delete that, we have 50, and since that 50 is very low, it's going to be like a dark navy blue. The reference shows you all of the functions that P5JS offers, and it gives you very in-depth descriptions on how they work, and some examples of them too. So we can actually go check that out right now by opening up a new tab on P5JS. So we're just going to go up here. And if we look on the left, see a bunch of stuff, and then we see reference. So we're going to click on that one, and here you go. So immediately you see a lot of stuff. So you got colors, shape, environments, events, image, math, bunch of stuff. So one thing we can look at is actually something we already looked at a little bit. So we go back to our script, we have a background here. How about we read about how that works a little bit more in depth? So let's go back over to the reference and find our background. That's going to be right here. Right? And immediately you have a few examples. It's telling you, oh, it's a grayscale value, and this integer just means that it has to be a whole number. And then you have another one for a red, green, and blue value. There's a few other ways to do it, but they don't really matter too much for right now. If you scroll down a lot, you can see a description. It says the background function sets the color used for the background of the P5.js canvas. And if you want to go more in depth, you can just keep scrolling down, and there's a few more things for you to check out. Of course, we'll also be going over all of this as we go along, but if you want to go like above and beyond and challenge yourself, then this is a good place to look. And that ends our initial setup video. In the next video, we'll be going over how to make some basic shapes on the screen and changing the color of those. I hope you all like the course, and I'll see you next time.